This is my story of climbing Mera Peak. The trip started with a short but lively flight from Kathmandu to Phaplu. Given my fear of heights, this is always one of the scariest parts of visiting the Himalayas. Before we begin, I should introduce everyone. I'm the tall one in the hat, and on this trek I was joined by a great group of people from across the UK and Canada. Safely on the ground, the rest of our first day was a relatively comfortable day's trekking. The next morning started with breathtaking views as we trekked through clouds and navigated some four-legged traffic. It was a good day's trekking as we warmed ourselves up to the challenge ahead. Day 3 began with some low altitude trekking before a real privilege visiting the family home of our lead guide, Pasan. It was a real honour to see where he'd grown up and learn more about Nepalese culture. We continued onwards as the realisation dawned on me that I hadn't done the correct training and I was lacking the stamina required. The following morning started with a lung-busting set of stairs up to Pankongma Monastery as we learned more about the importance of Buddhism in Nepal. The rest of the day was typical Nepalese flat as we trekked up and down tree-covered hills with plenty of false summits before finishing in Ningso at the same altitude we started the day. Day 5 started with a real treat with the first glimpse of Mera Peak, but before we could linger on just how big it looked, we were off, supported as ever by our brilliant guides. We remained in the jungle as we climbed steep sections and crossed rivers before arriving at our aptly named base. Pleased to leave jungle camp behind, we ploughed on. The daytime temperatures were a real surprise to me given my previous, much colder, trip to Everest base camp. But walking alongside the river cooled us until we reached Gote. Day 7 was the first day out of the jungle as the scenery started to look more like most people are used to in the Himalayas. We followed the river until we came across a fantastic tiny temple built into the cliff. From there it was a short walk to Tagnag. Tagnag would be our home for 2 nights. To help acclimatise to the increasing altitude, we climbed a nearby hill which gave us both excellent training and fantastic views at the top. On day 9 we set out for Kare, the last significant village before Mera Peak. A hidden lake gave a good photo opportunity and a chance for a short rest before we continued onwards. The day finished with a tough climb to Kare as we hit 5,000 metres for the first time. We awoke to frozen windows with the increase in height resulting in dropping temperatures. With another acclimatisation day, we again took to a nearby hill which offered a great view of Mera Peak and the challenge to come. We returned to Kare and spent the afternoon practicing our technical climbing skills. Day 11 saw us leave Kare for lower base camp. It was a tough climb with the altitude making every step a bit harder, but the reward was the amazing scenery. We arrived at base camp with a great view of the Merala and our route up to hopefully the summit. We set off the next morning, excited as we fixed our crampons and hit the glacier. While undoubtedly tough, it was an amazing day's climbing as we navigated past crevices and scanned the horizon for upper base camp. Perched next to a giant rock for shelter from the wind, our tents were perched on the edge of a cliff. We went to bed, anxious about what lay ahead. Our summit attempt started in the dead of night and with an excruciating 5-hour climb and temperatures of -20. Despite the cold and altitude sickness, most of the group reached high on the mountain, with 4 of us navigating the scary last climb to reach the ultimate summit of Mera Peak. Physically and emotionally shattered, we descended to upper base camp and then a long trek back to Kare. This long trek back was a bit of a blur as I was so physically drained. Our tired bodies left the snow-covered Kare longing for lower altitude and the extra oxygen. This was a long day as we followed the river, crossing bridges and concentrating on putting one foot in front of the other. Day 15 was a tough day for me. The efforts of the previous few days had taken their toll, and a long day's trekking that saw us actually gain in altitude was not what I needed. However, the scenery remained stunning. I was delighted to walk into Tulikaka, where we met travellers just starting out on their own adventure. Our last day was a spectacular one, as we navigated ridges before reaching the Zatralar Pass. Pleased to be going down rather than up this intimidating section, we all continued onwards. Increasing vegetation and oxygen told us that we were getting lower, and it wasn't long before we all stumbled into the mecca of Himalayan adventure, Lukla, where our trek ended. A huge thanks to all the trekkers who I shared this mountain with, but my biggest thanks must go to our porters who supported our endeavours, and our guides Dorji, Sunam, Mekdan and above all Pasang, whose skills and strength are only matched by their humility.